Prisma 6.11 is here, and there are some great new features that will improve your workflow, especially if you're working with local Prisma Postgres. Why don't we dive in with that? If we do npx prisma init in a project like we typically would, what's new as of a couple releases ago is that we get a local Prisma Postgres database wired up for us. So Prisma initializes, we get our Prisma directory, our schema.prisma file. In the environment file, we get a database URL pointing to a local Prisma Postgres database. The way that we run that is npx prisma dev, just like this. So we could go and run this. This would be a default database, a database with a name of default in local Prisma Postgres. But let's take a look at another thing we can do, which is we can do npx prisma dev -- name and then give a name to another database that we might want to use locally. So mytestdb, for example. So mytestdb wires up. That is a separate Prisma Postgres database from the default one that gets wired up if we just do npx prisma dev. Now what's new at 6.11 is that we can stop this database with a command, and that is this. We can go ahead and run npx prisma dev stop, and then we give it the name mytestdb. Then we're prompted for a confirmation. I will interrupt sessions. Hit enter on that. Now the database is stopped. So if we take a look over here in that initial session that we were in, it is stopped over here. So previously we couldn't stop a specific local Prisma Postgres instance with a command from the command line like this, but now we can in 6.11. Another command we might want to do is npx prisma dev and then rm for remove. We could remove mytestdb. Hit enter on that. Then another confirm step. I will lose local data, no problem. Hit enter there. Now we've removed mytestdb. So with Prisma 6.11, more options to manage the whole life cycle of your local Prisma Postgres databases. Okay, let's look at something else that's new as of 6.11, and that is if we're in our schema.prisma file and we choose that we want to use the Rust-free version of Prisma, we can do so already with Postgres. We would use the Postgres adapter that Prisma ships. It's at prisma/adapterpg. Now at version 6.11, we can use Prisma in the Rust-free variety if we're using MySQL. So we can target MySQL like this. We can come up here and say we want preview features that will give us that Rust-free capability, and that's going to be query compiler as the first one, query compiler. And then the second one we need here will be driver adapters. So that's all that's really needed to opt into the Rust-free version of Prisma. Let's give ourselves a simple model here, model user. We'll get an ID, email, password, created at, updated at. That looks okay like that. Then when we go to use the Prisma client, it's going to look a little bit different than what we're used to. So we might be here in our main server.ts file and we'd import Prisma client like that, and we'd be used to just using it straight away like this. But if we're using the Rust-free variety of Prisma, we need to bring an adapter. So for MySQL, that looks like this. We can npm install at prisma/adapter-mariadb. This adapter is going to give us the ability to use MySQL in a Rust-free way. So then we need another import up here. That is going to be import Prisma MariaDB. That comes from the adapter package. We'll get an adapter here, const adapter equals new Prisma MariaDB. We'll pass some config here. Let's get that out of the way. We'll pass an object. So some really simple setup, a host, maybe localhost for now. Port 3306, that's fine. And then we can also set a connection limit, maybe 5. So then for our Prisma client instance, we don't want to pass this stuff here. Instead, we just pass the adapter. And that's the same pattern we've seen with the other adapters that we've got, like the Postgres one, for instance. So now we've got our Prisma client, it's got the adapter. This is the Rust-free version of Prisma targeting MySQL. All right, so something else new at 6.11 would be some new samples to check out if you're interested in using the new Prisma client generator. So when you've installed Prisma in the past, you get this automatically, Prisma client.js. The new generator that operates a bit differently but is more performant is just like this, Prisma-client. Now, if you want to follow along with some demo applications, some sample applications, we've got a list of them here. So we've got these ready to run examples for the new Prisma client generator. This, by the way, is found in the release notes for 6.11. You can go to github.com/prisma/prisma. That's the repository for Prisma. Head over to the releases and check out the 6.11 tag. And you can check out here a number of ready-to-run examples. For example, we've got this Next.js starter with TurboPack. If we click into the Prisma directory here and we go to the schema, what we see here is we're using that Prisma client generator, not Prisma client.js. We've also got those preview features that are needed to use the Rust-free version of Prisma. We've got driver adapters and query compiler. So a few different varieties for you to check out. If you are interested in the Prisma client generator, come over to the release notes and check those out here. Now, something else that's new at 6.11 is the ability to embed the new Prisma Studio experience directly in a React application via this new package called Prisma Studio Core. So if you have some needs in your application to provide a data editing experience, just like you do in Prisma Studio, you can now use Prisma Studio directly in your app. We've got a demo application for how all of this fits together. I'm actually running it here at localhost 3000. And what we're seeing here in the main part of the application is Prisma Studio being rendered via this new package called Studio Core that we've got. The rest of it is just a React application. So if you'd like to see how all of this gets wired up, we've actually got a separate video that covers all of that. You can check that out to see how all the details come together. Finally today, let's take a look at a couple new things in Prisma Postgres, and one is that we've got a new region available. If you're serving traffic that's in Europe, you might benefit from this. We have got a new region ready to go in Europe. So let's enter my new DB. For example, we'll choose Prisma Postgres, and from the list here, we have got Europe and in parens, Frankfurt. So this is the EU Central 1 region, and that's ready to go for you to use. And then finally, we have got a new calculator on the pricing page for Prisma Postgres. So if you're curious about how much you're going to be spending, you can go here and do calculate. And this is where you can plug in some numbers and check out how much your bill is going to be. So let's say I'm doing 1 million database operations, estimated monthly storage, 5 gigabytes maybe. Then down here, we can see the estimated total is going to be $23.80 on the starter plan, then $56 and $134 if you go up to higher tiers. So as always, we invite you to come over here to the release notes to check out everything that is new in Prisma 6.11. Again, that's at github.com/prisma/prisma. Head over to the release notes for 6.11. Feel free to reach out to us if you've got any feedback about this release. We're online at prisma.io, or you can reach us on X/Twitter. We're at Prisma there. We'll also leave a link to our Discord in the description below so you can join the conversation. And if you enjoyed this video and you'd like to get more updates as new releases come out, we would love if you'd subscribe. Thanks for watching.